The food was still warm, but no one had eaten. Forks lay untouched, silence heavy like smoke. My hand throbbed beneath the table, wrapped in gauze that Mom called an accident. But I remembered the sound, the sharp crack when my sister shoved me against the doorframe hours before my exam. My name is Lena Carter. I'm 22. And if you think family always protects you, stay tuned. They said accidents happen, but my sister's smirk told another story. She glanced at me with those eyes that begged for innocence, but shimmered with something darker. Mom leaned closer, whispering words that stung sharper than the pain in my wrist. Stay quiet, or you'll ruin this family. I wanted to scream. Instead, silence poured from me like stone. Dad kept eating, chewing slow, pretending not to notice. Maybe that was his survival trick. Pretend enough and the truth dissolves. But truth doesn't dissolve. It bruises. It swells. And it waits for witnesses. Hours later, when I limped into class with my useless hand, my teacher's eyes narrowed. "What happened?" she asked, her voice steady but burning. I muttered the script Mom rehearsed into me. Slipped on the stairs, clumsy as always. But then Mr. Halvorson clicked a button on his laptop. The grainy video appeared, pulled from the neighbor's security camera. My sister's shove. My fall. My hand colliding with the doorframe. The smirk afterward. My stomach dropped. Air sucked out of me. He didn't even look at me. He looked through me, as if seeing the silent war I carried home every night. "Lena," he said quietly, "you don't have to protect them." Have you ever had family cross your boundaries? So deeply it broke something in you? Let me know in the comments. And in that frozen moment, staring at the truth on screen, I realized accidents don't lie. People do. The classroom felt too small for the weight of that video. I could hear my classmates shifting in their seats, whispers bleeding into the silence. My face burned, not just from shame, but from the raw exposure of it all. For once, my secret wasn't mine to carry. Mr. Halvorson closed the laptop slowly, his eyes steady on me. "This isn't clumsiness," he said, voice low but certain. "This is harm." I shook my head instinctively, the way Mom had trained me. "Please don't." My voice cracked, a fragile sound. I wanted him to believe me, but not believe what he'd seen. That contradiction clawed at my throat. "You still wear that perfume?" a girl behind me muttered, almost mocking, as if the smell of vanilla clinging to me somehow explained why my family treated me like this. Her words were nonsense, but they cut anyway, because they felt real in their dismissal. My teacher ignored her. He walked to his desk, pulled out a yellow notepad, and wrote something. The sound of the pen against paper was louder than my heartbeat. "You need medical documentation," he said, "and someone needs to be accountable." Accountable. The word sat like a foreign coin in my hand, valuable but not mine to spend. When I walked out of class, the hallway lights flickered, buzzing faintly. Students brushed past me, their laughter echoing. My cast felt heavier with every step. I found myself outside, leaning against a brick wall, watching a single leaf spin down from the maple tree. That's when I noticed it. Mr. Halvorson had slipped a folded piece of paper into my binder. Inside a name, a lawyer, a number circled twice. The air around me shifted. For the first time, the silence in my house didn't feel permanent. It felt temporary, and that thought scared me more than the pain in my hand. I stared at the paper tucked between my notes, the ink bleeding faintly where his pen had pressed too hard. "Call if you're ready." A lawyer's name, neat and precise, circled twice. The weight of it didn't fit in my binder. It pressed into my chest, into every unspoken word I had swallowed at home. When I got back that evening, the house smelled of roasted chicken. Mom stood at the counter, humming as though nothing had cracked in our world. My sister lounged on the couch, scrolling her phone, her nails tapping like little knives against the screen. "Doctor said you'll heal in 6 weeks," Mom said, not looking at me. "That's good news. You'll still graduate on time." I slipped the binder onto the table, careful not to let the folded page slip free. You think I care about graduation? My voice came sharper than I intended, brittle and trembling. Mom's head snapped up. Don't start. We've been through this. Families don't drag each other into courtrooms. Do you understand? The recurring motif, a cracked glass sitting in the sink, caught my eye. A long fissure running down its side, ready to split but still holding water. I wondered if I looked like that too. I didn't say anything, I whispered. But my sister smirked, sipping from a different glass, whole and gleaming. She won't, she said confidently, her eyes locked on me. She never does. Her certainty broke something, because maybe she was right. Maybe I never did. That night, in my room, I unfolded the note again. The name stared at me. The circled number pulsed like a heartbeat. I dialed, just once, hung up before it rang. But the sound, the soft click of connection, lingered in my ears long after. And for the first time I thought maybe silence isn't loyalty. Maybe it's just surrender. The phone on my nightstand glowed faintly in the dark, that lawyer's number staring back at me like a dare. My cast itched, my hand aching beneath the gauze. But it wasn't the injury that kept me awake. It was the sound of my sister's smirk replaying in my head. I pressed call. 1 ring. 2. My breath caught. Then a calm voice. This is Marianne Keller's office. How may I help you? I froze. Silence stretched until it became unbearable. Then I whispered. I think my family hurt me, and they told me to stay quiet. My own words felt foreign, like I was finally speaking a language I'd been forbidden to use. The assistant didn't rush me. She simply said, "Come in tomorrow. Bring what you have." Click. The next morning, I tucked the cracked glass from the sink into my backpack, washed but still fractured. A piece of evidence only I would recognize. Proof, not of the shove, but of how we lived, broken yet paraded as whole. At the office, everything smelled like paper and lemon polish. I sat across from Marianne, her suit sharp, her eyes sharper. "You don't owe them silence," she said after hearing my story. "But you will owe yourself a choice." Her words settled heavy. A choice, as if I could simply choose not to bleed loyalty. I slid the binder across the desk. She flipped to the folded page my teacher had given me. "He was right to send you," she murmured. For a moment, I imagined Mom's voice whispering in my ear, "You'll ruin us." Then Marianne's voice cut through like light through shutters. "No," she said firmly. "They ruined themselves." When I left her office, the autumn wind stung my face. I clutched my cast against my chest, the cracked glass shifting in my bag a reminder. A family secret can feel like a locked door, but keys exist, sometimes in the hands of strangers. By the time I got home, the late sun spilled through the blinds, painting the living room in stripes of gold and shadow. Mom sat at the table, bills spread before her like cards in a losing hand. My sister's laughter drifted from upstairs, bright, sharp, careless. "Where were you?" Mom asked without looking up. "Library," I lied. My voice was steady, but inside, the note from Marianne Keller burned against my skin like fire. She tapped a pen against the overdue bill in front of her. "We can't afford drama, Lena. Not now." Drama. That's what she called my broken hand. My silence. My shame. I slipped past her, heading for the stairs. But her voice followed me, quieter this time. "You're not fragile. Don't pretend you are." I froze mid-step. It was the same sentence she'd whispered when I was 12, after another shove, another bruise. Like a lullaby made of glass shards. Upstairs, I sat on my bed, staring at the cracked glass I'd taken from the kitchen sink. In the lamplight, the fissure caught and scattered light, throwing tiny fragments across the wall. Pieces, like me, splintered but refusing to disappear. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "This is Marianne. Just remember, you're not alone in this. Call when you're ready." My fingers hovered. But instead of replying, I pressed the glass against the cast on my wrist, feeling the fragile ridges beneath my palm. Downstairs, Mom's voice rose, sharp and tired. "Why are the lights on again? Do you think money grows on trees?" Every word echoed the same truth. I was already the cost they didn't want to pay. And in that moment, I realized silence wasn't protecting them. It was destroying me. The cracks weren't spreading in the glass. They were spreading in me. The next morning, the air in the kitchen was thick with the smell of burnt toast. My sister sat at the counter, scrolling her phone, while Mom washed dishes with that same brittle hum in her throat. I placed my binder on the table, letting it thud a little too loudly. Both of them looked up. "What's that?" my sister asked, her smirk already forming. "Notes," I said evenly, but my hand hovered over the pocket where Marianne's card rested. My chest tightened. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Lena, don't do anything stupid." The word stupid rang like a verdict. I almost laughed. Wasn't it stupid to believe love was protection? Then the doorbell rang. The sound sliced through the kitchen like a warning bell. My sister flinched, phone slipping from her fingers. I opened the door, and there stood Mr. Halvorsen, holding a manila envelope. His presence alone felt like a rebellion against the silence I'd been forced into. "I thought you should have this," he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes, they carried a kind of quiet fury. Inside the envelope were stills, printed frames from the neighbor's camera footage. The shove, the smirk, the collapse, evidence in ink and shadow. Behind me, Mom's voice trembled. "Why are you here?" He didn't answer her. He looked at me, only me, because truth needs witnesses. The room shifted. My sister crossed her arms, but I saw it, the flicker of fear in her eyes, the first crack in her certainty. I set the photos on the table, beside the cracked glass I'd carried upstairs the night before. Both broken, both undeniable. Mom whispered, desperate now, "We can fix this. We can make it go away." But I wasn't sure she realized things already had changed. Because once a witness arrives, silence is no longer an option. The photographs lay scattered across the table, stark black and white truths against the wood. My sister's face, frozen mid-smirk, stared back at us, and for once, she couldn't twist it into innocence. Mom reached for them, but I pressed my good hand down hard. "No more disappearing," I said, my voice shaking but sharp. Her lips trembled. "Lena, you'll destroy this family. Your father—" "Dad's been gone long before this," I cut in. The words startled me, but they were true. He'd left in spirit years ago, sitting at dinners like a ghost who chewed but never spoke. My sister scoffed, trying to reclaim ground. "So what? You'll parade us in court? Over a little shove?" I snapped. A shove that broke my hand. A shove that nearly cost me my exam. "Do you think pain disappears because you call it small?" The cracked glass glinted under the kitchen light, catching every eye. Its fissure seemed deeper tonight, ready to split. Then my phone buzzed. Another text from Marianne. "We're ready when you are. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. bring the evidence." The silence afterward was thick, pulsing. My sister's smirk faltered, replaced by something I'd never seen in her before, uncertainty. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered. I picked up the cracked glass, holding it between us. "I've lived in dare my whole life, and I'm done bleeding for it." Mom's eyes glistened, but she said nothing. She looked smaller, like someone watching her reflection splinter. That night, I packed my binder with the photos, the lawyer's card, and the fractured glass wrapped carefully in cloth. Sleep didn't come, only the sound of my heartbeat against the quiet, like a drum leading me toward something irreversible. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of ruining them. I was afraid of saving myself too late. The courthouse lobby smelled of polished floors and stale coffee. Morning light streamed through tall windows, bright and unforgiving. I sat on the wooden bench, binder clutched to my chest, the cracked glass wrapped inside like a fragile heartbeat. Marianne walked toward me, heels clicking steady on the marble. "You showed up," she said simply. "I had to," I whispered. When we entered the small chamber, my mother was already there. Her hands twisted the strap of her purse, knuckles pale. My sister sat beside her, arms folded, but the smirk that once lived on her face was gone. The judge glanced over the stills, the report, my medical notes. Each piece of evidence laid out like shards of truth. My hand throbbed inside the cast, reminding me of why I was here. "Do you want to press charges?" the judge asked gently, eyes on me. The room stilled. My mother leaned forward, her whisper sharp. "Please, Lena, we can make this right. Don't ruin us." For a moment, I wavered. The word family still echoed, still tugged. But then my teacher's words returned. "You don't have to protect them." I inhaled. The cracked glass flashed in my memory, water seeping slowly through the fissure. "You can't drink from what won't hold." "I don't want destruction," I said, voice steady. "I want acknowledgement. I want accountability. And I want it in writing." The judge nodded. A mediated agreement. Mandatory counseling for my sister. A signed admission from my mother that they had silenced me. No trial, no handcuffs, just truth etched in ink. It wasn't revenge through fire. It was revenge through clarity. When I left, the autumn air was cold but clean. The weight in my chest lightened. I slipped the cracked glass into a trash bin outside, finally letting it break alone. If this ever happened to you, if silence ever cost you your voice, just say same in the comments.